More and more often, we are seeing individuals coming here to purchase properties. However, the thing that they're noticing is that Serbia operates a lot differently than most other countries. And this is where they feel uncomfortable in many of the processes and where they reach out to us in the process. And today I want to talk to you about many of the cases that we're seeing from our clients and something that you may want to take into account when you are looking to purchase a property here in Serbia. All right, you've made the decision. You're moving to Serbia either as a citizen or someone who was born here in Serbia, left the country for 40 or 50 years, and now are looking back. And you could also be a complete foreigner and don't speak the language. And this is where the situation comes in that I want to talk to you about, is that for those that are coming from another country and looking to purchase property in countries such as Australia, Canada, for instance, I'm not sure exactly all the states if they function the same way, is that when you go to purchase a property, you hire a real estate agent, and that agent is going to go find you properties, and they work directly for you and in your best interest. And they eventually find a property who is listed through another real estate agency. And now the two realtors work together and they come to an agreement. The seller's agent looks out for the seller's best interest. The buyer's agent looks out for the buyer's best interest. However, when you come to Serbia, there is a complete backwards effect that you have to keep in mind. And I've talked on this channel many times before that the agencies here I find are below subpar when it comes to working for the best interest in either party's best interest, should I say. And the reason is because here in Serbia, real estate agents, they are able to represent both the buyer and the seller. And so to me, and I'm sure you as well, think of it, well, how can the one real estate agent work in the best interest for both? Well, they don't essentially. And we've had clients come to us and they said, hey, listen, we've found a real estate agency that we want to purchase a house from, and they're going to do the negotiations for both parties, and they're going to close the contract as well. However, a lot of the agencies, they don't speak English very well. A lot of the documentation is in Cyrillic. We had an individual who signed a bunch of paperwork who didn't know what was going on, and he was left high and dry, and eventually came to us and said, hey, listen, I signed all these documents. Is there a way to get us out of it, or get me out of it, or kind of clear things up for us? And once paperwork is signed, you're kind of SOL in that department. And so what some of our clients do, and not all agencies do that, is they find an agency who has properties that they are looking to purchase, and they ask the agency, hey, listen, I want you guys to sell me the property, but I want another team to look over the contract and to make sure that everything's kosher, especially when it comes to the language side of things. And of course, I need to let you know, we are not an agency here. We do have legal counsel here, people who also speak English, as well as myself and my whole team as well. And so now this is where the tricky part comes in. It's going to be very difficult to find an agency who is willing to drop their commission to be able to accommodate for you using someone else, or they're just going to say, no, you're either going to buy it through us or not. And that is going to be the part that you have to decide on and negotiate with the real estate agency themselves. Now, recently we had a individual who came here and she was able to purchase, or she wanted to purchase a property, and it was through a real estate agency. And of course, the agent that she was talking to was, of course, the owner of the agency as well. And so our client said to the agency, hey, listen, I have someone who is going to work on my behalf that helps foreigners, that will read contracts over and ask for certain things and understand what I'm saying, because the agent themselves didn't speak very well or no English at all. And our client spoke the basics of the Serbian language. And so, luckily enough, this agency said, yeah, I have no issue lowering my commission. You go and work with Relocation Serbia, of course, and we can help you buy the property, and I will represent the seller. And you can have Andre's team look after your side of things. And that's essentially what we did. And the funny thing is, we were working close with the real estate agent. She was explaining to us what the seller wanted. We worked with the buyer, saw what she wanted, and made sure that there were no hiccups in the sale, that every party knew each other, what they were buying and selling, what was left in the house, what was not left in the house, when is the date that they're leaving, when is the move-in date, so on and so forth. But the thing is also that we were able also to be witnesses. So if you are a foreigner and purchasing real estate here and don't understand the Serbian language, it's mandatory that you also have a translator present at the time of the contracts, as well as witnesses that are present at the notary office. And we went through a couple things where the seller was trying to sell some chandeliers, and they were talking about some ovens and some stovetops, and is the house going to be empty? Is it going to be furnished? So on and so forth. And there was a lot of back and forth. And one of the things that I have to acknowledge is that the seller or the agent that we were working with, she really was in the best interest of the seller and not of the buyer. And that is where I think a lot of these agencies fail, is they're just looking for the transaction to be said and done, and they don't care about either party's wishes in essence. And so one of the things that we need to do is make sure that there was a deposit done. So we did it in two different contracts. We did a pre-contract and then the final contract, or the main contract as we call it here in Serbia. And of course, be witness to the negotiations and when the keys are going to be handed over. Because this situation, the seller that was selling the property was also buying an apartment in Novi Sad. And so there's a little bit of a transaction of where our buyer needed to send money to the seller so that the seller could then take that money to put a deposit on their new apartment, and then the remainder of the money also to be switched over into the bank account for their final payment, but then also the seller to transfer that said money to the apartment she was buying. And so there was a little bit of overlap as to when the seller is actually going to be moving out of her house, when our buyer can be moving in. And so there's a lot of back and forth, and nobody in this whole agreement spoke English except for myself and my team here. And so we're able to facilitate not only with the real estate agency and the buyer and her wishes, but also, take over that information and give it to the buyer and what they wanted from the seller side, and then ask the buyer, hey, does this work for you? Does this transaction work? Are you okay with this contract? We, of course, made sure that both parties were happy, but in essence, we look that our client is taken care of as well. And to the point that the real estate agent once made a comment during the whole transaction, and she said to us, hey, you're looking in the best interest of your buyer, and I'm looking in the best interest of the seller. And that kind of brought things to home where exactly what it is. We are looking for the best interest of you as the individual who's buying the property, make sure that you're not getting taken advantage of, that, you know, if there's any outstanding bills such as electric, water, gas, that's covered in the contract, because it's easy to come here and purchase a property, but then understanding what should be in the contract. And one of the things we put in there is who's going to be responsible for the bills that are still in the current homeowner's name. And so we were able to come to an agreement where the buyer is not going to be obligated to pay any of the bills that are coming in from the previous month, because as we all know, if it's March right now, you're going to get your bills for February in March. And if you move in at the beginning of March, you don't want to be stuck paying someone else's bills. And so that needs to be put in the contract, and so that everyone understands, hey, listen, this is what is going to be paid. Where is that money coming from? If that money does not cover all the bills, how is that rectified? And then at the same time, if you are purchasing as your first property, how are the taxes going to be paid for? And are you entitled to some reimbursement or rebates? Because if you are a citizen here in Serbia and purchasing your first property, you are entitled to some money back. Now, if you are purchasing a newly built property, you are entitled to the PDV back. If you are purchasing an existing house, you are able to get a certain portion of the space of the actual house back on the tax money. And so understanding all these things, because of course you're not going to be able to read any of that. It's all going to be in Serbian Cyrillic. Of course, you can use your trusty phone and use Google Translate, but at the same time, Google Translate is not going to be the most clear and correct translation that you're going to get. And so going over the contract clause by clause, and so that the client understands exactly what they're purchasing. Of course, when it's time to sign the paperwork at the notary, you will have a translator present, but this all needs to be done before you get to the notary. And so for those that are looking to come to purchase property here in Serbia, you of course have free will. You can use agencies, you can purchase things directly from the owners themselves. If you find it on some sort of oglas is what we call it, or I'm not even sure what it's called. It's like an eBay for where people sell their things privately here in Serbia. So I wanted to kind of take this full circle, because a lot of people come here and understand that what works in their current country is not going to work here in Serbia. And like the buyer said, a lot of the stuff that they did in her home country, this was all done. She was responsible for switching simply over the electric and water, but here she was responsible for sending the money over, the deposit over, paying for the notary fees for each contract, paying for the translator, paying for the taxes as well. And you yourself are the system, and if you don't know how the system functions, it may take you a long time, and especially if you're entitled to some sort of rebate on the property that you're purchased, you want to make sure that that is filed in a timely fashion as well. And so if you're looking to purchase property in Serbia, I hope that this video kind of clarified things of what you should be looking for and how you can resolve them.